there's a lot to be said about that kind of thing, but getting back to what Kent was talking about, how I started playing left-handed, that's pretty much it. I write left-handed. That's the way I started. People fought me the entire time and have been trying to get me to play right-handed. And at the time, Billy Cobham was the only left-handed drummer that I knew of. And
as a bass player, I don't care what hand he plays with.
Dig it.
You know, I mean, it has always felt good. Every time I was going on a gig that Sean was on, I always knew it was going to feel good. It didn't even matter what kind of gig it was. You could always count on it to feel good. And I think that's one of the single most important things that you can have following you, you know, in your reputation. That when you show up, it feels good. Because if you've got that, people are going to want to have you play with you.
True. First time you make somebody feel bad on the stage, you're going to be the last person they think of. So, you know, it's all about a supportive role. It's not about show me licks and things like that. Of course, there's times and places for all that kind of thing. But most of the time, in our world, we're going to be called upon to play. We've done thousands of gigs together. I mean, if you really think about it, 27 years, 365 days a year, sometimes we're playing 5 nights a week. That is a ton of gigs, a ton of different tunes, a ton of different artists. And no matter what gig we do, Russ and I got it. We got each other, and we know that we are going to play for that person. We did a ton of gigs with Francine Reed.
I count myself very blessed to have met a player like Sean, because when you meet, I mean, when you play with people, you know, if you have a connection that I honestly cannot think of one gig I have ever done with you out of the thousands we've done that I ever had a problem with, ever. It's always been fun. It's always been enlightening. It's always been motivating. I've always left the gig happy.
But by that same token, with as many gigs as you wind up doing in a freelance world, you're going to come across players that you just don't gel with. And the trick about that is being able to get through the gig without showing your hiney. You know what I'm saying?
It's tough.
Because that, you know, that's another thing. Because it won't be, people won't care that it's just, you're not gelling with that person. They will remember you showing your butt. What you need to be able to do is to adapt to any situation that you play and make it feel good even though it doesn't. Which is a trick in itself. I mean, and you know, sometimes it just doesn't work. And then you have a decision to make, whether you play with those people again or not. And sometimes it's much better to say thank you, no, instead of showing up, knowing full well that the gig is going to stink, you're going to hate it, and then it becomes your responsibility whether you show it or not. And like I said, that's a trick in itself. But yeah, Russ and I have always clicked. We clicked from day one, playing Cafe 290, playing to people, you know, to where you could hear silverware louder than you. And the trick was being able to get that music across, feel-wise, dynamically, and still be able to let somebody eat their dinner without them going, which, you know, will happen. So, I've been talking a lot. Is there anything else you guys have questions about?
You talked about playing with the bass drum. Can you talk about playing against the bass drum, perhaps, or some of the tension in the rhythm section?
It's about listening. And of course, your development as a musician, this type of stuff you listen to, if you are in tune with that kind of stuff. In other words, you've listened to bands function that way. Very famous drummer Elvin Jones, a bass player I knew, played with him, and Elvin, don't play my time. You know,
it's like Francine, don't play my note.
Yeah. And you told me when you played with O'Teal, he said, don't play my bass line. Play, create counterpoint. You know, so in order to do those kind of things, you have to understand what they are. So it comes down to first and foremost listening to a lot of different things, you know, and learning about them so that you know you have an idea in your mind of what you're trying to do.
I actually like doing that. Thanks for coming, y'all. Take care. I like playing. You know, it's fun to play the same thing, but then all of a sudden, you got two guys playing the same thing. It's much cooler to break it down, and I will just play 1 and 3 on the kick drum. Right? Oh, okay, here you go.
You have a question? Man, I'm burning over here. I really do have a question for you. When we're talking about like a kick snare setup, we talk a lot about being the foundation of something. Phil's and dynamic responsibility. You knew he was going to end because of his dynamics, correct?
I just knew
his approach.
I mean, I can't say he did something specifically. Oh yeah, he's
I didn't telegraph anything.
We've been playing together so long.
Right.
We don't have to. We just know.
Well, as
What's
a
the
freelance
chemistry
player
between you?
on a gig, isn't that kind of part of how you would play off of each other, is your dynamics?
Absolutely.
And how
And
could
that
you
all comes
accentuate
in
that?
the whole ear thing.
Right.
You gotta have big ears. You know, you can't just be, okay, I'm playing. You gotta be able to listen to other folks, be able to cue, and that's gotta be a split-second thing. And that does not come easy. That just comes from doing it and repetition and being in enough situations to where, I mean, we're not.
Somebody said to me one time, really put it in perspective, and said, listen like you were out listening to a band. That's the way you need to listen on stage. It's like you're actually out there listening to a band play, how you listen to the overall, get your ears above the music, to where you're listening to everybody's part. You're listening to the overall song. You know, listen to like that on stage. Now, of course, you know, you need to zero in on things that, you know, that make sense that you have to zero in on. However, you also need to listen like an audience member and how your thing is working with the overall part.
Structures. They're very common, especially when you're playing in a blues, rock, pop, even the jazz world. You know when the turnaround's going to come. You know what the phrase is going to be, and 9 times out of 10, it's going to be something you've heard before or you've played before. And so we're not doing anything new here. It's things that we've been exposed to over the years, to where it becomes instinctual.
I mean, specifically with your kit, what things would you recommend that you can do with just a kick and a snare to turn things around and to be dynamic? You know, you're not working.
I mean, like fill-type dealies instead of
Right.
doing the thinking. Well,
to carry the music and be the backbone, what can you do while keeping it simple?
well, what I would do is, instead of going to a tom-tom, I'll go to the snare drum, right? You know, the whole, right? Instead of, you know, you know, you just you learn to phrase in between the kick drum, and you know, and also you have to have enough command with your foot, and that's where the calisthenics come in. That's where, you know, the thing that really got my foot going, even when I was a kid, it started off with the frantic. But what that's doing is the muscle training, and the calisthenics of it and the muscle memory of it. And then another thing that really helped me was the samba. You know, what that enabled me to do is, you know, so that's all the muscle memory thing. So you got to work on the calisthenics of it in order to be able to phrase the things that you want to do with the kick drum, instead of just doing all hands. You know, I always started from the ground up. I mean, every song starts with the kick drum. Every mix, right, starts with the kick drum. That's the first thing you pull up. Get that kick drum happening, and then you build everything around it. So, foundational. The kick drum is the deal, and what I would just do instead of playing a tom-tom fill is put it to the kick drum and just phrase it that way. And then, so yeah, and that's the whole deal about playing a kit like this, is being able to phrase between the kick and snare instead of just going with the snare drum the whole time. You go. Underneath it, right? So, yeah, that's where the whole phrasing comes in, is I treat the kick drum as the replacement for the tom-tom. Well,
when you play double bass, you got double bass pedals, right?
I do have at home, I have a double bass drum pedal. And
oh, that's not got one up there?
No, sir.
That's one thing I like. You brought up Terry Boziel. and Terry is just incredible with doing, and I've seen several of his seminars and stuff and a few shows of really playing the same thing on the bass drums as he does with his...
Yes, that. Yeah, oh yeah. Amazing. The thing, I am able to do the double bass drum thing, but I use that for an ostinato kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or, you know, instead of you know, with the kick drums. The thing that worked my left foot out, and this is another thing that I do differently, and I'll keep this short. I don't lead with my right foot when it comes to the double bass drum thing. I've always led with my left. The thing that works that out is I've always, whether it's open or closed, I've always kept eighth notes.
Right.
So when I go into a double bass drum thing, it's instead of the other way around, you know, which so that access is available when I need it. But to be honest with you, most of the things that I need to do, I can do with one. There's very few things that a double bass pedal comes into play. You know, unless
I've never owned the pedals, never had double bass. I've always kind of prided myself with having a quick foot.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Exactly. And you know, if you can get it done with one bass drum pedal.
But I was thinking maybe with the gigs you were doing with just that setup, do you take a double bass pedal sometimes to get the tom fill?
No. I just phrase it with the one foot. You know.
Cool.
But I've worked at that. I mean, that's something that I've paid attention to over these 45 years. Well, look, we've been talking for an hour. I appreciate everybody sitting around and having us. Thanks to Kent.
You guys got time to play one more thing?
Sure.
Swing it.
Okay. You play now.
ladies and gentlemen. So hey, we're going to do some door prizes. So if you've got your tickets, there they are.
They need to get mixed up anyway, right?
Look at that.